Hello, quick share today. So last time I have been working on my classifier uh, testing application. So I tried to create a classifier for paragraphs and creating the data set for training and test proved to be really work intensive. So I'm going to show how was the basic process that I was doing. So basically, I tried to go to Wikipedia, and then I checked random pages, and then I read some paragraphs and tried to identify, oh, this paragraph is a definition and this is not a definition. And then I checked more paragraphs, and then I checked another random page. And so I was basically repeating this process, and it took a lot of time. And then I started to read about evolutionary algorithm, and I had this idea in mind to try to use this concept and generate the training data set automatically with this evolutionary algorithm. So you can see this the whole idea here is to replicate how the evolution works with an algorithm. So we have a base population, and then we have some function to measure the fitness of each member of this population in an environment. And then we have some evolutionary functions like mutate and crossover. And then we try to get better results over time. So it's like it's a continuous um, evolving program. And then I start to check some frameworks to work with this, and then I checked this Python framework, and it was really just the just the algorithm idea. And so the basic idea you have out here, it's like create the initial population, then you measure the fitness of each member. There's this run function here, and then you will start to cross over the the members, and then you mutate the member, and then you try to get better results over time. So I adapted this code to PHP, and then I just did a few modifications to the idea because I didn't like the idea that the crossover is too random, so it takes too long to get good results. So I changed this just this a little bit, and then I start to create an implementation of this idea to work with the text classification. So my idea was to cache hundreds of Wikipedia articles automatically with PHP, and then the algorithm would create data sets and apply this evolutionary algorithm idea to get better data sets results. Um, So I I moved all my old definition training dataset and this other data all my training datasets to the test dataset. So now I have over 100 of tests for each category of the classifier. And then the idea was that the algorithm would would build the training data set automatically, and we could measure the improvements um, just testing the data set. And then for mutating, we would add new pieces of sentences for each category, and crossover we would get uh, data from uh, two different data sets. And yeah, it proved to work quite nice. I'm going to show an example here how it works in practice. So I have this testing code here. It's a command. Oh, this actually started too good. Like the initial member is really good, but you can see right now it improves. Um, in this case, it's quite fast because if we have an initial good data set uh, randomly, and then there is also a function that I implemented that it's called what is the name? It's called introspection. So this introspection function, I try to simulate the same piece of information in different categories, or removing the piece of information in the dataset. So if we get a bad dataset, we can improve the results without changing the items in that dataset. So that's how that introspection function works. So that's before we try to cross over two datasets or mutate a dataset. And then you can see, for example, here is another member of the population. So the initial fitness value for this member was 50%. And then the code starts to run the introspection function, and it improves to 55, 55, then it improves a little bit, and then there's another member, then another member, and this got best value, a new best of the 76%, and then you can see the algorithm running. So the initial population in this case are 10 members, and you can see where some of them start to be really bad, like this one here, 36%. It's really low score, but then there's this introspection function that tries to improve, moving the data between a category and another, and then it improves it from 36 to 67% accuracy. So, and then we can keep running this indefinitely, and over time it's going to get a really good data set, actually better than the one that I have been creating automatically, because the computer is doing a lot of simulations, and even though like some simulations does not make any sense, but as long as the computer is doing like 100 simulations in 1 minute, or I don't know, then at some point it's going to get really good data sets. So this is the first generation, and it didn't even finish the to create all the members of the first population. I have some old data here. So for example, I had run some data, and for in this case here, I got 79% accuracy with this data set here. But then there is also this one here. This is an array I was storing here just for testing. And the first member here got 83, almost 84% accuracy. So and I didn't even run the script for too long. It was in less than an hour of running this. So if I keep running this like for a day, probably I'm going to get pretty good results, like 90%. I don't know. So yeah, so the basic idea here is to create this framework, and now I think I can create more categories, and as long as I define a good testing dataset, I might just run this script to generate the training dataset for me, and then I can start using the categories, and then over time I can do some tweaks, like run the script again if I see some weird results or some unexpected ways that I should be classifying some information. So the idea is to minimize the work to rebuild the data, because I would need to rebuild the data manually even if I was not using evolutionary algorithms. So that is it. Bye bye.